Hey y'all, what's going on? Welcome to Kelsey's Corner. I'm Kelsey. This is Athena, one of my mini ball pythons. Today's video is going to be kind of sad. I want to share Zuri's story with y'all. I want to share some mistakes that I made, and I hope that some of y'all can learn from some of the things that I did wrong. About 6 to 8 weeks ago, something like that, I was visiting some family in Georgia, and while I was up there, I went to a pet store. I love going to pet stores, by the way. I saw a beautiful snake. I was actually in the market for a snake. At that time, I wasn't heavily thinking about breeding snakes like I am now. I've kind of really gotten myself determined to start breeding ball pythons, but I was kind of in the market for another snake, so I asked the girl who was the pet store owner if she had any female snakes, because I already had a male ball python here at home. His name's Monty. She had 3. And the first one she pulls out was this beautiful blue-eyed Lucy. My heart just melted. As soon as I saw her, I was like, oh my, she was so tiny and she was so cute. She fit in the palm of my hand, and she just went on and on. Oh, she's so sweet. She eats so good for me. She's wonderful. She's beautiful. She's so even-keeled, like such a good temperament. As I was holding her and I was just looking at her, I mean, I absolutely felt my heart melted. I fell in love with her. And I'm like, I have to have this snake. I couldn't take her home that day because, like I said, I was visiting family. I paid for her, and then they had her on hold for me until I could pick her up a couple days later. So I went and I picked her up. Falling in love with Zuri immediately like that was my first mistake. When my emotions took over and I just absolutely had to have her. I mean, right then I knew, I was like, I'm taking this snake home. One way or another, I'm going to figure out a way to take this snake home. I allow my emotions to overcome my sense of logic and my sense of reasoning and my typical nature, which is to ask a lot of questions and make sure I understand everything 100% before I dive in head first. And I didn't really ask the proper questions that I should have. Now, don't get me wrong, I wasn't, one of these people that just is like, oh my god, like, give me that right now, I don't care about anything. I mean, I have snakes at home. This isn't something that I've never owned any animals before and I just jumped into it. I'm familiar with taking care of snakes, but I will say that I'm not very familiar with taking care of baby snakes, baby ball pythons specifically. My Boa, she is 1.5 years old. I got her when she was 2 or 3 months old. So she was very young, very small, and I'm well versed in that. But ball pythons, every ball python that I had, which at that time was 1, I got him when he was 1.5, 2 years old, so he was already pretty much full grown. I did not do my due research as far as taking care of a baby ball python that I probably should have. So when she told me something like, oh yeah, she's eaten one fuzzy every week, it didn't raise any red flags to me because I just didn't know. I'm looking at this teeny tiny snake and I'm going, oh yeah, that makes sense, because I used to have a Kenyan sand boa, and that's what that sand boa ate, was little pinkies, mice pinkies. And looking at her body, I'm like, that snake is the same size, so that makes perfect sense to me. I just didn't know any better. It's my second mistake, impulse buying her. Like I said, I decided right that second, I'm bringing the snake home, but no matter what, I had my mind made up. And that was my second mistake because, as I said, it kind of goes along with the same thing. Asking about her food a little more, maybe doing a quick Google search. You don't know what you don't know, so the food thing isn't as big of a deal. What really got me that I didn't realize until later on was her weight. So I didn't realize how tiny she actually was. This is Athena. She is about 4 or 5 months old. She weighs about, I just weighed her the other day. I'm trying to remember how much she weighed. I think she was 250 grams. And this is a 4 or 5 month old snake at 250 grams. When I got Zuri home and I weighed her, she came in at a stunning 69 grams, and she told me she was 3 months old. That obviously is a huge red flag. That snake was ridiculously underweight. So I went and picked her up, and I was just ecstatic. I've never been so in love with a snake before. I got her home. I had her set up in a 10-gallon tank. She was in a hatchling rack when I got her. So I had her in a 10-gallon tank. I had 2 hides in there, had a water bowl, a light, under the tank heat mat, plugged into a thermostat. You name it. There was nothing I was doing wrong. I had her on newspaper and paper towels so I could make sure she was pooping and make sure it looked good and all that good stuff. So I had her all set up. I went and I bought some what I thought at the time were appropriate sized mice, and she actually did eat one. And so I didn't really think that there was a problem with anything. After a week, I tried to feed her again and she didn't eat. And I was like, oh, well, you know, not a big deal. Monty has gone 2 months without eating before. I've heard of people's ball pythons going 6 months or a year without eating. I wasn't really concerned about 1 week. It's happened many, many times with my snakes. Then I came to the second week that I had her after she ate that one time, and she didn't eat again. Still, I'm not really concerned yet, but I did get her out to weigh her after the second week because she was so tiny and she was starting to look skinny to me. And so I got her out and I weighed her again, and she had dropped down to 61 grams. So she had lost 8 grams. Doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're only 60 grams, I mean, that's more than 10% of your body weight. So I got a little concerned when I noticed that she was losing weight. I started reaching out to some of my contacts that I have, that I've made in the reptile community, saying, you know, like, should I kind of be worried about this? She's not really eating. It's only been a couple weeks, so I'm not freaking out yet, but I'm noticing that she's losing weight. Got a couple of tips from people, and I was, by the way, trying to feed her frozen, which is what she was used to. So I went to the store and I got some live hoppers and put them in there. Sorry, I put one in there. And no interest. Nothing. Like, just nothing at all. I'm going, okay, this is freaking me out now. Like, now I'm getting kind of concerned. Got her out, weighed her again. Now she's down to 54 grams. So at this point, we've lost 10, 15 grams. And I'm like, okay, you're not eating, you're losing weight, you're looking skinny. I was starting to get pretty concerned. And really, this is what I'll say is my third mistake that I made, was trying to manage it on my own. Obviously, having a good community around me, having people that I can ask questions to who've maybe done this for a long time, that's all great and everything. But when someone doesn't see your animal, when someone's not holding your animal, if someone's not a professional, a vet, you can only get so much help online. You know, Google can only do so much. People can only do so much when they're thousands of miles away, hundreds of miles away. So really, that was probably my third mistake, was not seeking out more professional help. You know, hindsight's 20/20. After I asked the people that I know about her weight loss and how to get her to eat, it was about 3 days later, I came back in the room, she was dead. So I was very, very upset. This was my little baby. I mean, I absolutely adore her. In my emotion, I still was able to have a little bit of logic. Where are you going? And I was thinking, well, what can I do to... Okay, you're going in my belt loop. She's going in my belt loop. I was thinking, what can I do in this instance to figure out what's going on? So I get on YouTube and I start looking up, my snake suddenly died, what could this be from? Or ball python losing weight. All these different things that were happening with her, and I couldn't find hardly anything on YouTube. And I don't know if it's like people haven't made these videos. I don't know if people's videos got taken down because they were talking about a dead animal, or maybe they had pictures or videos of a dead animal. I'm not really sure. I don't know all the ins and outs of YouTube yet, as I'm very new. I couldn't find anything. I mean, even on Google, I was looking up, you know, my snake suddenly died, but nothing. Nothing at all. Let me try to rescue her. There we go. I couldn't find anything online. Nothing at all. And so I thought, well, how can I figure this out? I did find on some forums people talking about getting a necropsy done. I've never done that for an animal, so I didn't even know if I could find somewhere that would do that for an animal. So the next day, I started Googling it a little bit more, and I thought that I found a vet that would do it. So I called them. They gave me a referral to another vet in the area that actually did do it. They did do them, or they do them. So I called them, and it was only $100. That's worth it to me, because it's not about the money. Things aren't about the money, but they are about the money. I paid a lot of money for that snake. I wanted to know, I wanted to have some kind of proof saying, this isn't me, this isn't something that I did. I took her there, and the results came back the next day. I actually have a whole video on my Instagram talking about it as well, if you would like some more detail on what actually happened with her. Well, the main thing was the snake was sick when I picked her up. She was sick before I got her. That's why she was so small. The girl wasn't feeding her enough. And the second thing was the snake was actually a male. I just want to pause right here and say that he actually did poop once with me. I forgot to say that in the video, but it was kind of runny. It wasn't a normal poop that you would see from a snake, which kind of looks like a log, like a dog poop. It was kind of runny. So he did poop with me, but it was not a normal poop. I'm sure you can kind of understand a little bit of my frustration in that, because now, okay, you had a snake that was sick when I got it, and you were also selling this snake as a female. So I tried to get in contact with the girl that I got her from. And by the way, she was not the breeder. She owned this pet store, and she is supposedly personal friends with the breeder who supplies her snakes for her pet store. She does not have the same knowledge and expertise as a snake breeder would have. She's just a pet store owner. So I reached out to her. She was very hard to get a hold of. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to knock anybody here, but especially when it comes to a customer service issue, I was a little irritated with how difficult it was to get in contact with her. First, she asked me to come by the store. Obviously, I'm not local, so I was like, well, I don't live there. You know, I'm 7-8 hours away. She's like, well, we can do a Zoom call. I'm like, okay, that works. So it was going to be a 3-way Zoom call between me, her, and the breeder, and we were going to figure something out. And then a week goes by, and I still haven't heard anything, so I call her again, and I had been texting her, didn't hear anything back. Called her again, and I'm like, hey, like, what can we do to finally get this solved? And she's like, oh, I'm sorry, I've just been so busy. That was kind of her tagline. Every time I talk to her, oh, I've been so busy. I'm like, you're not the president of the United States. There's no one's that busy that you can't take 5 seconds and say yes or no to a text. But I digress. So we had scheduled for the next day at 5 o'clock. Well, the next day comes, and I tried to confirm with her via text message, so we're still on for 5, right? Never heard anything. 6:30 rolls around, still haven't heard anything. Really getting pissed at this point. And so at 6:30, she finally gets back to my text message. Oh, I'm sorry, I've been so busy. I had no phone service. I'm like, okay, just stop. So I was a little, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. I probably was a little on the edgy side with her. I don't really know what the word I'm looking for is, but I was kind of frustrated at that point because this has been going on for over a week, and I still hadn't been able to really get in contact with her. So I said, look, if it's easy for you, if you're really that busy, I don't think you are, but maybe you are, I don't know, what do I know? So if you're really that busy, just give me his number. I'll do it myself. You don't need to be the middleman. If it's coming directly from him anyway, if he's the one that's going to be solving my problem, just let me talk to him. So she gave me his number. I called him, Uncle Joe's Ball Pythons out of Cleveland, Georgia. I got in contact with him. Really cool guy, really nice, really willing to work with me. And he actually had a snake that I was looking for to put into my collection and have in my breeding plans for the next few years. So I'm pretty psyched about it. So I should be getting that snake here shortly in the next week or so. So I'll keep you posted on that for sure. But yeah, it was a great experience talking to him, working with him. Like I said, I don't have any hard feelings against the girl. I just think she doesn't really know what she's doing. Because I ended up asking Joe, I said, I guess she told you that snake was actually a male. He said, well, everyone makes mistakes, which, yeah, I get that. But then he ended up telling me that she bought the entire clutch. That was his first clutch of this year. She bought the entire clutch from him. He didn't sex any of them. So now I'm going, okay, like, this is kind of making more sense now. That's the common denominator in this situation was her. So really nice girl, just some people have too much on their plate maybe. I don't know. I'll definitely keep y'all posted on the new snake that I'll be getting. I'm pretty psyched about it. But yeah, so those are the 3 mistakes. Don't impulse buy. If you're in the market for something, make sure you do your research. This is all really common sense stuff, but sometimes it's things you don't think about, I mean, I walked in that store. I had no intentions on walking out with a snake that day or before I left for the week, but I fell in love with something immediately, and it kind of overpowered my reasoning and thinking, my logical self of questions that I need to ask. By the way, I am going to be doing another video. It's going to be on questions that you should always ask a breeder, a snake breeder, specifically ball pythons, but a lot of these things really go for any snake or any reptile, really. Basic questions that you should be asking, and I'll link that. I'll link it down in the description box below, and if YouTube will let me, I'll put it somewhere around here, because there's some pretty important things that you need to be looking for when you're going to be purchasing a new animal, especially if you're going to be spending a lot of money. I fell in love at first sight. I impulse bought this snake without really doing some more research. I really should have slept on it for a day or two before just laying all my money on the table the second that I saw her. So those were my first two mistakes, and then I tried to manage it on my own. That was the third mistake that was really the biggest, was trying to manage everything on my own, thinking, oh well, it's only been a week or it's only been 2 weeks, and I started to get concerned, and then I wasn't reaching out for more professional help. That's something I definitely would have changed. Taking him to the vet, seeing what's going on. It would be better to spend more money taking your pet to the vet and solve the issue than to have to do a necropsy after they die. You know, it just sucks. Even though what happened wasn't my fault, I still wish that I had spent the money and just taken him to the vet, because maybe all of this could have been avoided. Maybe not, but maybe it could have, you know. Hopefully this story will help some of y'all out. I hate telling sad stories, but like I said earlier, I couldn't find anything on YouTube or Google of a snake suddenly dying. What could the cause of this be? And I really just want people, even though this is kind of a one-off thing where it's not like this sickness that snakes can have in the beginning, it's something that people need to be aware of. It's something that you can watch for, signs that you can look for. Losing weight obviously is never good. They're going to go through cycles when they're so young and they're growing and stuff like that with their weight. You know, they're going to eat and then they're going to be heavy, then they're going to poop, and then they're going to lose some weight. But if your snake's not eating, or if it's not eating enough, or if it's not eating frequently and it's losing weight over time, that's a bad sign. I hope everyone can keep that stuff in mind and learn from my unfortunate circumstance and Zuri's unfortunate circumstance. All we can do is live life, move on, and learn from it. So with that, like this video, hit the subscribe button if you love snakes, and I will see y'all next time.